Bella Salon and Day Spa, located at 41 West Main Street in Northeast Pennsylvania, proudly supports Chautauqua Sunrise and its volunteers. More information at bellasalonanddayspa.net. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. From the Access Channel 5 studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Channel 5. Continuing the traditions of Senior Report, we are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week, countywide, from 9 to 10 a.m. Join us by calling in live, emailing us, or checking out our social media. And now, from the Channel 5 studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
It's not me. They got you. Hey, what's going on here? It's supposed to start with me. You were sitting there. You didn't have nothing to say yet. Good morning, everyone. Who's in charge of these cameras? Well, wow.
And Day Spa, located at...
Well, we get Poor Jeff, it's too early in the morning. Speaking of morning, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Chautauqua Sunrise. I think that's the name of the show. And I'm Doc Hamels, and I'm going to be your host here for the next 57 minutes. We got a great show with you, and Mike Ricketts will be joining me in a little while. This is your first time with us on the show. We are a multi-generational show. We cover just about anything you want to talk about here over the weeks and months. And we've been on the air since the beginning of July as far as Chautauqua Sunrise. And we've been carrying on the traditions of the Senior Report, which has been 18, 19 years Saturday mornings live for you. And we're happy to bring in guests and discuss all kinds of topics. So grab a cup of coffee, hot chocolate, tea, whatever. And if you want to comment on something, call in, have a question for us. If you want to Twitter, these things are flying by. You can catch this, they'll repost these things. But we do encourage you to call at 7535225 or Twitter us. And if you have a question, if you have a birthday, anniversary, if your club or organization has an event coming up, we are happy to share that with you. Well, I don't know about you guys, but according to the clock, it says it's morning. But this morning, I forgot what time it was. It was still nighttime, and it was like 7:30 or something like that. I couldn't believe it. This is Saturday morning now. If you're traveling in the Mayville area, be very careful. There's a lot of heavy fog, and I suspect probably in a lot of the other higher elevations and maybe in some of the valleys, the temperature and fluctuations and all that jazz, the weatherman would tell you, the fog and the cold air and the warm air and the cold ground and all that jazz, they're creating quite a bit of fog out there. So just take your time, okay? Hopefully that'll burn off. I do the weather report here too in the morning. Anyways, well, according to, I think, the Chinese calendar, today is supposed to be a special day. I don't know if you knew this. Did you know this, Randy? Today is 12/13/14. Suppose you're supposed to get married today. You're supposed to, christen your baby or something. I don't know. But countries and cultures that are really into numerology, certain numbers mean certain things. And I know, like Lucky 7, if you're in Vegas, or, certain numbers are good, certain numbers are bad. Well, anyways, today's, if you didn't know, it's December 13th, 2014, 12/13/14. There's my trivia for this week. But I do know that I was seeing on the news today people want to get married and they have special celebrations and that. All right. Really not a whole lot going on as far as here at the studio. We don't have a whole lot to talk about as far as what's going on in the community. And if you do have something coming up in the next month or two, get it to us. We'll promote it free of charge, and we try to develop some slides, graphics that'll support all that. And this is your Access Cable TV network. It's free of charge, and we have a volunteer crew here that are more than happy to let folks know what's going on. You know, if you don't read the paper and you don't get Buffalo, Erie, or Jamestown radio stations, a lot of times you don't know what's going on. So we're happy to help out and fill that out for you. Okay, well, my Christmas shopping is about done. How many guys out there, raise your hand if you got yours done? Okay, it's not many hands, so you guys got to get busy out there. I used to wait to the last minute. It was a genetic thing. I thought I was supposed to do it that way, but fortunately, now that I'm retired, I get a lot more time to, I say a little more time, I guess it's a little more time. I'm still pretty busy in retirement, it's pretty amazing. But anyways, I have more time than I did before to go shopping, and some days it's kind of scary out there to go shopping. I was out there Thursday out on Peach Street in Erie, and it was like a war zone. It was snow up to the halfway up the tires. These little low-profile vehicles that didn't have all-wheel drive were stuck in the snow on the left lane. Then was it Mayville got hit with ice and snow yesterday. I guess they closed schools. So it's been kind of a crazy weather pattern. Okay, I wonder. I wish I could have people push some buttons that are watching right now. I just wonder how many people think we're going to have a white Christmas. Randy, what do you think? Yes or no? Up or down? White Christmas? White Christmas? Mike, what do you think? White Christmas? All right, I'll go with that. I think we're going to be all right. My son and his wife are coming in from Germany. He hasn't been home in over 3 years. He's in the service, and he's been bouncing around the world fighting the bad guys. And so we're going to be picking him up tomorrow, and so we hope to be spending some quality time with him and the rest of the family over the holidays. And I'm sure many of you are doing the same thing. Christmas time is really a lot of fun, isn't it? And as I said something blasphemous last week, I said Merry Christmas to everybody, and you know what? Nobody wrote back or sent me death threats or anything like that. For some reason, Merry Christmas is going out of style, but I'm on the bandwagon. Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas, everybody. So it's easy to say, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we're telling anybody else they can't celebrate or they have to celebrate. That's just what it is. It's a cultural event. Everybody enjoys it. It's a religious event, and if you choose to participate in the religious side of Christmas, that's great. If it's a cultural thing where it's goodwill and taking care of each other and sharing generosity and all that sort of thing, that's okay too. But where we got to get into this business where we got to say happy holidays so we don't say Merry Christmas, I don't know, kind of goofy to me. Okay, we got a few things I want to share with you. Okay, let's see if I can get this right. The Grinch Fest, we got that one, Jeff? Let's see if that pops up. It's going to be right here in, not here, I'm not here. I'm in Mayville. This is going to take place next week over at the Patterson Library. You've got the Grinch coming there from 1 to 4, as you can see, and I think they're asking for a small donation. And if you haven't read the book by Dr. Seuss, or if you haven't seen the movie, the animated movie, that's just a great fun movie, and it's got some pretty good morality, some morals, what's the word I'm looking for? It's got some good messages in there, and so anyways, if you want the kids to meet the Grinch, he's going to be there, I believe, somewhere along the line. Good fun at the Patterson Library next Saturday from 1 to 4. Okay, also coming up, today at the Grape Discovery Center. You been there?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, today's your day. Today, if you're interested in going to the Grape Discovery Center, they are having a special Christmas in the Vineyards. It's going to be a special sale, and what they're doing is they've discounted a number of things, and I believe up to 20%. They're going to have some music from noon to 5, as you can see, a guitarist, and that's always near and dear to my heart, so go get out there and check it out. It's free to go in there. It's a beautiful location. It's over on Route 20. It used to be Beckman Everett's Ford, and it's just on the, sort of as you're between Westfield and Ripley, but it's in Westfield, and it's gorgeous. They have got all kinds of different items that you might want to purchase for the holidays or for yourself that has a grape or wine theme. And I was there last week after the show, and they've got things for the kitchen, things for like ornaments, decorations, clothing, just a whole slew of things that have a great theme to it. And for those of you that live in the East County, and you're not out here where we live out in the West County, grapes are everything to this county, and you may not realize it. And the Grape Discovery Center has a variety of purposes, but one of them is to tell the story of the grape industry. And that industry brings millions of dollars into this county through taxes and jobs and products and small businesses and so forth. And if you've got kids, probably, I don't know, maybe second grade on up, I say that because there's if they're a little bit younger, they may not appreciate it, but there's great exhibits in there. In the back room, it's like a little museum, and they've got pictures and things to do and manipulatives, and they even got, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but there's a great big bone in there. And if you go there, you're going to say, wow, this is really cool. I'm glad I listened to Doc and we came over here to the Grape Discovery Center, because it's just got some really neat things. It tells you about the history of the area and how the farming started out in this part of the county with grapes and so forth. So it's a great story. Get out there today. I'm going right after the show. It's truth. I'm not making this up. I've got one more Christmas gift to get for our exchange this year, and I'm not going to tell you who it's for. It's not my wife, but it's one of my family members, and so I've got a couple things in mind because I checked it out. So go see Christina McCain. She's the director out there, the manager, and say hi and tell them I sent you. Okay, let's see what else we got. Okay, we got one there. I'm on the fly here on this one. We got a slide that's going to come up, and it's about Talk to Santa, okay? This sounds like great fun. From what I understand, they're going to be broadcasting Talk to Santa live on this station, and it's going to be next week, December 17th and 18th from 6:30 p.m., and you can call that number, 679-XMIS or 679-9627, and kids of all ages can call that number. And I guess they're going to have Thompson Hall in Fredonia at the college, and they're going to have operators ready, and they're going to hook kids up, and they're going to be able to talk to the big guy. I don't know if they've got Altel or AT&T or Verizon. I don't know how they're doing this, but they are going straight to the North Pole, and they're going to talk to the big guy, and kids are going to have a good. Oh, DFT is supplying it. So evidently they've got a special discount on long distance calling. I don't know. I don't know what it costs to call the North Pole. It must be pretty expensive. Anyways, the good folks at DFT are going to be supplying that. Talk to Santa, and that's coming up. And they tell me they're going to broadcast it right over Access 5 here. So what fun that's going to be. Okay, just one more thing. Last week I mentioned this. I'm going to do it for a couple more weeks. The Children's Safety Education Village over in Asheville, they are sponsoring their great fundraiser, which is their cash calendar. And these are $20. And if you're interested, you can purchase one at the Safety Village, or if you know someone that's on the board or involved. How does it work? Okay, every month there are certain dates, and there's a little number in there. For instance, let me pick one here. I'll find on my birthday. You can win $20 on my birthday. I won't tell you what that day is. On President's Day, you can win $50. On Valentine's Day, you can win $100. There's the 12 days of Christmas, and there's different amounts on every one of those days. Let's see, here's one more. Independence Day, $100. So I went and I checked this out. You can, for $20, you can win up to 229 times. Okay, there's 11 $100 prizes, one $75 prize, 21 $50 prizes, 11 $40 prizes, 8 $25 prizes, and 177 $20 prizes. And I got to tell you, since they changed the format about this, I've been selling these left and right, especially with my Rotary Club in Westville, Mayville Rotary Club. So that's supporting the great work that the Safety Village does, helping kids learn about fire safety, personal safety, bike safety, traffic safety. They're saving lives every week, every day. These kids that go there, they get lessons and learn all about the certain things that they should be doing to keep themselves and their families safe. And especially this time of year, as you know, people have have fireplaces or things go a little screwy on their appliances, this can happen, and the kids know exactly what to do, where to go, how to get the family out of the building, and have a fire safety plan that they make their parents sit down and put together, and it's all good stuff. Terry Kinberg is the executive director out there, and as you know, folks like Joe Gerasi, just a whole slew of other guys like myself, we sit on the board of directors, and just let you know that's a great fundraiser and a good way to raise some money, and you might get a little bit of money back too. Okay, we're going to take a commercial break here. We're going to have a public service announcement, and then we're going to get right to our guest, Mike Ricketts. We'll be right back.
Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 58 years old.
For me, it was heart-wrenching.
It takes a toll on everyone. I mean, it's a depressing disease to watch unfold before your eyes.
You just don't see the person's soul is like gone.
This disease just ravages a family.
It changes your life.
The magnitude of it is indescribable.
Now is the moment. If we work together, we can stop this epidemic.
Contact Bright Focus and learn more.
Okay, thanks for that public service announcement. That's obviously something that's a growing concern here in the United States, and just one more thing that, one more area that you can support with your generosity is Alzheimer's Foundation and so forth. We're going to move on to something new here. Mike Ricketts has been on the show when it was a senior report, and this is your first time here with Chautauqua Sunrise. Welcome, Mike. Good morning.
Good morning.
You look as wide awake as I do, and it's not even late. I mean, this is early. I mean, we're into the mid morning here now, so let's gotta do some exercises or something.
I drank my coffee this morning.
You had your coffee. Maybe that's what I should do, because I'm hyper enough. I don't know if I need coffee in me. Mike, we're going to be talking about the Habitat for Humanity and that, but maybe we got some first-time viewers, because we've got a growing viewership each week. And I know that you were born and raised in this part of the world, so can you give us a little background about yourself? And
I can. Sure. I actually grew up in Westfield, New York. I grew up in my dad's Main Street grocery store. He had a little independently run.
There's a baby in aisle 4. We'll name him Mike.
That grocery store wasn't big enough for aisles. There were 2 aisles, and that was it. But I spent my childhood in Westfield, and after I graduated from college and went to work in Allegheny County as a probation officer for a couple of years, and then had the opportunity to get back here in my home county as a probation officer.
So I didn't know you went to Allegheny.
Yeah, it was the first place that would hire me.
Mm-hmm. We all start that way. You just got to work your way.
Yep. And I have lived here in Mayville now since 1976. My wife Kathy and I still live on Elm Street here in Mayville. We raised 2 children who attended Mayville Central School at the time, and we have 2 great daughters. One lives in Angola, the other lives out in Asheville, and they've blessed us with a total of 4 grandchildren, so we're enjoying retirement.
So you have a new job.
It's a great job.
It's a great job. It doesn't pay real well, but it's a great job.
There's no pay, but the benefits are excellent.
The benefits outweigh the pay.
For sure, for sure.
There's nothing like a grandchild, is there?
No.
It's unbelievable.
My dad used to tell me he said, you just won't understand what it's like to be a grandfather until you become one yourself, and it absolutely was. He was absolutely right on the money with that.
It's hard to describe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hard to describe, but it's totally different than being a parent. And I know people joke about it and say, well, that's because you can send the kids home and you don't have to worry about them. But it's the relationship and the experience of being a grandparent is, and I know I'm speaking for all of those folks out there who have been grandparents for years. It's just a unique opportunity. Guess I better silence my phone.
Okay, I was wondering. I thought somebody was listening. Anyways, I know. And when you hold that little baby, it's sort of like you feel like you're there's an extension of you through generations. And I know. Even with our own parents, and then they have great-great-grandchildren, what a thrill that must be to see their lineage, and that sort of thing. It's fascinating. Yeah. It's great. And so before the show, you said you now have twin grandchildren. You didn't say boys, girls?
Two girls.
2 girls.
Yeah, 2 twin girls, and then our daughter who has blessed us 10 years ago with a little boy who's not so little anymore. blessed us with a granddaughter and another granddaughter in February, and then the 2 twins were born at the end of March.
So are they identical? Or
no, they're not.
I don't want to say
identical.
fraternal. There's another word, sororial, So they happen to come out at the same time.
Yes, couple minutes apart.
Couple minutes apart. Wow, that's great fun. Keeps mom and dad busy though, huh?
Oh yeah, their parents. It's their first children, and most of us get to have that experience of having just one child out of the box at a time. But it's a whole different set of challenges when you have 2 kids, and they both have needs, and not according to your schedule. It's according to their schedule. So
I don't know how people do that, and then you hear people have triplets or quadruplets or whatever. Yeah.
I can't imagine the octets or whatever.
We've got 4 kids, and Barb and I sometimes think, how did we manage? And I see these people that have 1 or 2 kids, and they're like, ooh, they're all frazzled. And I go, relax, it's going to be all right. It's okay. You're going to make it.
Yep, for sure.
Wow, well, that's great. All right, well, Mike, I know that you've been involved heavily in the Habitat for Humanity for some time, but before we talk about the local version of Habitat, can you kind of give us a little background about where this came from, who sponsors it? I mean, to be honest with you, when I first heard about Habitat for Humanity, I assumed it was a federal government program, and couldn't be any farther from the truth.
Right. I think a lot of people associate Habitat with President Jimmy Carter, because that's kind of hit.
Right.
That was a point in time when Habitat kind of peaked in its public relations, and a lot of people became aware of it because Jimmy Carter and his wife got involved in it, and it was one of his key projects, his key focuses as president. But actually, Habitat was around for a number of years before that. In 1942, a gentleman by the name of Millard Fuller had traveled to a place called Corconia, Georgia, and there in Corconia, there was this farm that was sponsored by a farmer and a biblical scholar by the name of Clarence Jordan, and it was a community of people living together. And as people became part of that community and housing was needed, the community came together and built that person's house.
Sort of like the Amish.
Yes, very much. I was going to say, we're probably most familiar with how the Amish do their house raisings and their barn raisings, and the Corconia farm was very similar to that. Well, Millard and Linda Fuller decided to basically leave a successful business practice and devote their life to getting what we now know as Habitat for Humanity up and running across the country. And so since 1942, we've Millard and Linda Fuller visited the Corconia farm.
It's early.
in 1965. And at that point, left there with the idea of using this concept that they saw there at the farm and trying to build it as a national organization, which they were very successful in doing. And you and I have both been involved in startup organizations, and you know that it starts out oftentimes with 1 or 2 people's idea,
right,
and then grows into what we call a 501c3, a non-for-profit organization. Right. You end up with a board of directors, and now there's affiliates all over the world, Habitat for Humanity affiliates all over the world.
Wow.
Here in the Mayville area, what we call the Mid-County Habitat for Humanity, we've been in existence for about 5 years, and we're working on our 3rd house down on Patterson Street in Mayville. We also have a Habitat affiliate in Silver Creek that's building a house in Silver Creek, and we have a new Habitat affiliate. Maybe I shouldn't say new, because in Chautauqua County, Habitat for Humanity kind of got its start in the Jamestown area, and they did a number of houses. There's 20-some houses in Jamestown that were Habitat homes that were renovated and made ready for Habitat families. And so it's basically just recently been reestablished in Jamestown, and they are renovating a house on 2 Street in Jamestown. So for people to want to get involved as volunteers with Habitat, they have an opportunity in Jamestown, Silver Creek, or the northern Chautauqua County here in the Mayville area. We are all part of the Chautauqua Area Habitat for Humanity, which is our county-wide organization, and then we have these 3 affiliates that are part of that county-wide organization.
I went on the Habitat for Humanity website, and I was pretty well shocked by some of the statistics that are posted there. And I would say these are reasonable. I don't think these are like wild and crazy, only because over the years, people have not realized the level of need that people have in this world, in this country, in this state, let alone this county.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, we've either hidden it, disguised it, or called it something different. But people, especially in Chautauqua County, have great needs. But let me give you some worldwide figures here that I discovered, and maybe you could bring it down to the county level from what you know. It says here, the world is experiencing a global housing crisis. Okay? Worldwide, now this seems hard to believe, 827.6 million people live in urban slums. Slums. If you've been to the Caribbean and you go on one of these little tours sometimes, like if you go on a cruise and you get off and you go on the islands, you understand what slum is. You think, oh, you're thinking about, some rundown houses that we see sometimes. No, we're talking cardboard houses, we're talking about corrugated metal, plastic, no indoor plumbing, that sort of thing. 827 million people. By 2020, it's estimated the world's slum population will reach almost 1 billion. That's hard to believe. 50% of the world's population now live in urban areas. So we think that this is just big city problems, but it's only half of them. Lack of clean water and sanitation claim the lives of 1.8 million young children every year. That's almost 2 million children a year die because of poor clean water and sanitation. That all has to do with housing. Right? So bring it down to the Chautauqua County. I mean, do you have any idea of what the needs are here in the county?
Well, I know we tend to hear a lot, and not even so much in the press locally, but if you serve on any kind of boards for other nonprofits, I know frequently the topic of conversation is the substandard housing in Chautauqua County. If you talk to the folks at CRIC, they'll tell you about the number of substandard residences that exist in Chautauqua County. And quite honestly, Habitat was born, it was developed, and it's promoted as being an organization that's devoted to providing safe, decent, affordable housing for folks. And we're approaching it, quite honestly, one family at a time. And a lot of people, I think, are under the impression that Habitat builds these houses and then gives them to these families, but that's not really the case. Particularly with the new banking laws that have come out since the real estate crash here a few years ago.
Right.
And people were receiving funding for housing that way exceeded the actual value of the home.
Oh, sure.
So there's all sorts of new banking regulations, and one of those is the amount of money that people have to come up with just for a down payment to own their own home. So what we find are a number of people that are living in substandard housing as rental units. Those units are being neglected by the owner.
Are there
of the
zoning
units.
laws?
There are zoning laws, but some of those zoning laws apply, most of the zoning laws apply to the outside and the exterior of your home. I mean, you do have to have things like hot running water and those types of facilities, but you may have a home that has mold, or a rental unit that has mold in it. The roof could be leaking. It could just be a very
So this would pass?
unsafe.
Yes. As far as inspection?
Yeah,
You say,
I mean,
well, put a bucket under or whatever.
Well, I'm not a code enforcement
Right.
officer, but I think they've got their hands full in Chautauqua County with the substandard housing conditions. And what we want to do is give people an opportunity to own their own home, to be able to make those monthly payments to then develop an asset, that being their own home. And we do everything that we can to try to educate our families in terms of household maintenance, and this is how this can be fixed without having to call the plumber. We actually have a woman on our county board, and then her committee was charged with the responsibility of developing a homeowner's handbook.
Oh, nice.
And quite honestly, it's a handbook that every homeowner ought to have, not just the Habitat for Humanity families, but Donna Roof did a superb job in putting this book together, and that's one of the things we're now providing every one of our families with, is this homeowner's handbook. So many people, if you recall back to the years when you were a first-time homeowner, you know, you had a lot of questions, and
it was scary.
I used to be able to call the landlord to come and fix this, and now I have to do it myself, or I have to figure it out. So we try to, we don't just build our homes, put families in them, and then leave them. We actually stay with our families.
Support, education.
Yeah, and some of those families now we've been with for over 20 years.
Wow.
So
Nice.
it's...
Well, yeah, it's the old thing, is that you have to teach them to keep what they have. It's like giving someone a gift and not telling them how to maintain it,
Yep.
and then they wonder why the plant dies or the dog runs away or whatever.
Exactly.
Mike, can you comment on this? Okay, another statistic that was on the website, and I know this to be true in my world, but it says here, in the United States, how many people do you think live in poverty? Well, I think there's like, what, 300 million people in the United States?
Yeah, boy, I wouldn't have a clue, but you know, a good statistic to look at would be the number of kids that are on free or subsidized lunch programs in our schools, and
People
it's
don't realize
extremely
this.
high. No, they don't.
I know that when I was school superintendent, the numbers that I was hearing along the lake shore and in the large cities was like 40 to 50%.
Yep.
It was, I mean, you say, how can that be? It's true. And the thing is, well, how do you know this? When you take people's families' total income and then you put it against how many people live in that household, let's say there's 2 or 3 kids and there's one person that's working, and unfortunately many times it's if both parents are working 2 jobs and they're still in poverty because it's low wages and so forth, or whatever the case is. And so when you think, if you line up 10 kids, half of those kids are in poverty, 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
But it says here 48.5 million people live in poverty in the United States. So that's about the statistic that we're talking about, you know, it's somewhere in that high range. So you know, I did go, someone said to me, I don't go on big rants very often here on the show. I do go on a rant in the sense that we spend all this money on so many things, and we're not even taking care of our own folks half the time, it seems. Now, we can go into great debate that the money goes to the wrong places and that. I don't care. The fact is, we got 48.5 million people still living in the greatest nation in the world that are living in poverty. That just doesn't make sense to me.
No.
And but you guys are doing your fair share in this. So tell me, and the folks that are watching right now, how does this all begin? I mean, let's just say the house that you're working on today is all done. New project, new day. So how does it all start?
Well, the first thing we do is we select a family.
How do you do that?
Well, there's a number of different things that we look at. First of all, it has to be a family with children under 18.
Okay.
That's the
Is there
like a basic criteria.
Limit? Like, what if they have like 5 or 6 kids?
No, there's not really a limit. But one of the reasons that we do the family selection process first is because then that kind of tells us what kind of home we need to build
that makes sense.
or renovate for the
Big or
family.
whatever.
We've done a new build. We're doing a new build in Silver Creek, and we're doing this new build in Mayville. The one in Jamestown is a renovation. So when we find a house that we can renovate and turn it into a Habitat home, we have to kind of fit the house to the family. When we're constructing a new home, we can build the house and match the family, match it to the family. Generally, our homes are 3-bedroom homes, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,000 square feet. That's the typical Habitat home. And
So you're not talking mansion here.
No.
You're not like Extreme Makeover where they build these mansions with 6 bedrooms.
Correct.
We're talking.
I used to love to watch that show.
That really kind of irks me after a while. It's like over the top.
But then you start wondering, how do these people pay the real estate, the property taxes?
How do you maintain something that big?
And I actually had a nephew who did filming for them, and he said that they do provide a fund to get the family started. But there's going to come a point, it would be interesting to go back, and maybe that's why the show's not on the air anymore, but it would be interesting to go back and see how well those folks were able to continue to be able to afford that kind of a home. But anyway, our Habitat homes are simple, basic housing. You generally will not find a basement in a Habitat home that we've built. Well, we have a little bit different construction.
No slab.
And the two that we're building in Silver Creek and the one in Mayville have no slab. They sit on a gravel foundation.
Oh my!
And it's interesting to hear the coffee shop talk when I walk into the diner down. Go, how are you guys building that house with no kind of footer or foundation? I go, I'm not the construction supervisor. They tell me it's going to work, and boy, last year when we had that severe frost in the ground, we didn't have our house here in Mayville wasn't winterized yet. So I was telling the crew before the show that the frost set into that floor, and that floor raised up 6 inches. But around the foundation, where we had put the stone and laid what's actually the bottom plate of the walls, never moved. It was the interior of the floor that moved. So they tell me that this is how the pyramids are built, and the pyramids have lasted for thousands of years.
So far, so good, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's take a break here for a second. Folks, you're watching Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels, and my guest is Mike Ricketts, and we're talking about Habitat for Humanity. If you know anybody that's interested or in need of a home or would be eligible by the time we're all done with the show, they should be contacting you. And we have your contact information here on the slide. Does that pop up, Jeff? Okay, I think they're going to pop it up for us here in a minute. But a phone number, I think, is there in a
my home phone.
There we go.
My home phone is there, and we do have an office, but the office isn't manned. We're all volunteers, so we at the present time we just don't have anybody there to answer the phone. So you get an answering machine. But if you call this number, you'll get a live person, either my wife or Kathy, either myself or my wife, Kathy.
Excuse me. Okay, so that's so. Let's get back to how you pick the family. So, all right, so they have to have kids under 18. That's as far as we got. So what's their buy-in? What do they got to do?
They do have to have a job because they have to be able to pay for this house.
All right.
The other piece of their investment is they do what we call sweat equity.
Okay.
And for every person who's in the family who's 18 years of age or older, they have to do 250 hours of sweat equity.
So painting, shoveling, whatever?
It could be at the Habitat house. There's a certain number of hours that could be done at other nonprofit organizations or at their church. But they have to put in this. In essence, it's in lieu of a down payment.
Gotcha.
They would do these 250 hours. For instance, the family that we're building this house for in Mayville, the husband and wife are the only 2 people in the home that are 18 years of age or older. So they're doing a total of 500 hours of sweat equity, which they're very close at this point to having established that criteria. But when you think about the number of hours that they have to do, and right now we're only working Saturdays from 9 till 1. So it's a pretty good commitment. Yeah, it's just about every Saturday during the construction process.
Well, and I think you would agree when somebody gets hands-on, they're up close and personal with a project like their own home. That means a whole lot more to them. And we built our home with a general contractor, but to this day I can tell you just about how many nails, how many studs, where the pipes were laid, and it's like part of me, and I'm sure that they have a good sense of ownership with it.
The great thing about this particular build that we're doing in Mayville is that the homeowner is a carpenter.
Oh!
Yeah, and he works for one of the local contractors, and so he's been very helpful. Again, this is a little bit different way of building homes, but he's learning, and we're using his skills.
Great. Okay, how many people apply on an annual basis? I mean, are we talking 10, 20, 100?
It would be not so much on an annual basis, but on a home basis. We tend to, I would say, get somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 10 applications.
Is that because it's just the local area right here, or is that throughout the whole county?
It would be for each home. We would get 6 to 10 applications. A lot of those people are through the initial screening process are ruled out, and usually it gets down to about 3 families, and one of those 3 families is selected during the final process.
Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. So now you've got the family, and they got the job, they got the kids, they're ready to go. Do they sign legal documents? What if they change their mind midstream? How's that all work?
Well, they get a letter of acceptance from Habitat saying that they've been selected as a family to get this house, and to date we've never had that come
so
up.
far so good.
Yeah, we've never gotten halfway through a house and had them decide, well, I don't want this house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's usually a case of us not being able to get it built fast enough.
Okay. We just got a Twitter here. It says after the house is completed, they give them a variety of objects. Ooh. What are these, and what do they symbolize?
Oh, okay.
I don't know anything about this.
Yeah,
somebody knows something I don't know.
And I'm not going to be able to tell you everything, but when the home is completed, we do a dedication.
Okay.
And I've never been the one actually presenting these objects, or these, we'll call them gifts, but they get a toolbox with some basic tools in it. Now, I'm not so sure that's going to happen with this house in Mayville, because like I said, he's a carpenter and he's got a carload full of tools. But we would give them kind of I'm searching for the word and can't come up with it, but like a basic toolkit, a hammer, screwdriver, set of screwdrivers, that type of thing. Yeah. But there also is there's a pound of salt. I think there's a bag of flour, and all those have some meaning. But they also are presented with a family Bible.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because our Habitat is a Christian-based organization. Okay. You don't have to be a Christian to work Habitat or volunteer Habitat. You don't have to be a practicing church member or anything. Yeah, we're not affiliated in any way.
Good organization helping people.
That whole idea of helping out your neighbors and doing unto others as you would have done to you is
pretty simple rule.
Basic, yeah.
Okay, so then I got the family. They've agreed. They signed some papers. How do you get the house? How do you get the money? Where do you get the land? This isn't just like.
Well, we're again in Chautauqua County. We were very blessed to have initially 20-some years ago. We were recipients of some startup funds from some of the grants or some of the foundations, and I know the Carnahan Foundation was very supportive of Habitat, and a couple of others. So we were able to get that initial startup money, and then what happens is you basically use that money to build your home, and then we hold the mortgage. So as these homeowners are paying their mortgage, that generates kind of a revolving fund to build more homes. And
well, that's a great business plan.
It's worked very well to date. We're having some issues. I mentioned before with the housing crisis that we went through, they resulted in a lot of new regulations coming out.
Right.
And because we were a mortgage granting entity, we have to comply with all of those new regulations. So we've been sending board members to special seminars, etc. Habitat on a state level and Habitat International are exploring other options for us. And perhaps we won't be the ones that actually hold the mortgages.
Be like a third party type.
Be like a third party, and there is a federal agency under the U.S. Department of Agriculture, of all places, that does issue mortgages. Our mortgages are interest free. They don't pay any interest on our mortgages.
Wow.
This USDA mortgage would be 1%,
which is almost free.
Which is still a good deal.
It's a good deal.
But if we're able to go that route, and we're still looking at that option, but if we're able to go to that route, then we wouldn't be the money handlers anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Now, your group is just Mayville? Or do you always build just in Mayville? Or is it a catchment area like Westfield, Mayville, Brockton, whatever?
Yeah,
or how's that work?
we would actually go anywhere in this general area. We actually, our current volunteer base stretches all the way from Lakewood to Sinclairville.
So then, if somebody that was one of your people, the people that apply and are approved, do they pick where they want to live?
They don't necessarily pick where they want to live. Usually, if it's going to be a new build, usually we would have acquired a piece of property.
Okay.
So that would determine where the house is going to be built. We have had people who have lived outside of, let's say, the Chautauqua Lake School District, and they've applied for a house with the idea that they would transfer to the Chautauqua Lake School District. We have looked at properties in Westfield before, in doing homes in Westfield, because again, the hope would be that would kind of open up a new volunteer base for us, and there would be people from the immediate Westfield area who would want to get involved in doing a house.
So, if I'm not mistaken, I've heard you say you built new, so that means get the land and straight up.
Straight up.
And you've renovated houses?
Yes.
And so the house you're working on now is what?
It's a new build here in Mayville.
So you've done 2 new builds and 1 renovation?
We've done yes, 1 renovation and 2 new builds. The other new build is here at 64 West Chautauqua Street, and it's kind of a salt box design. It was a 2-story.
Okay.
The one on Patterson Street is a 1-story, and will most likely, it would appear that it's going to become kind of our habitat model.
Template.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to build. Yeah, and that kind of makes sense a little bit. So
It's if you drive by it, you'll see it's a berm house. So the earth is bermed right up to the house, and that provides additional insulation plus additional
55 degrees
stability.
year-round, you and I talked once about habitat, and this was a year or 2 ago, and you said that you were doing all green homes, green energy. So can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, when you think of a bunch of volunteers working on a house, you think, well, we're going to take out the drywall, we're going to put insulation. But you guys are like way beyond the typical everyday housing that seems
we do what they call green builds, and we try to make our houses as green as possible. Now, that's on 2 fronts. On the building material front, we try to use all renewable materials. You'll find very little vinyl in our habitat homes, only where it's something that's required that we use, PVC pipe, that type of thing. You will find mostly renewable materials used, but then we do a whole process of building a super insulated, airtight house. We just had the insulation blown in the ceiling of this house. It has an R value of 60.
What? Yeah. I think mine's like 28, 30 maybe.
The sidewalls of our house basically have almost 10 inches of what they call Roxol, which is a batt insulation product. It's not fiberglass, it's a stone wool woven material, but it's impervious to rot. It's got the rodent deterrents in it, all that stuff. But it's a fairly dense product, and there's 3 layers of it in the wall. So our walls are about almost 11 inches thick.
I bet that's a nice quiet house too.
And it's very quiet. If we could somehow eliminate the windows, we'd probably eliminate any kind of heat transfer in or out. But the house is, and then the whole house is wrapped in basically a vapor barrier. It's in a plastic bag. No, we don't use Tyvek. We actually use heavier
yet
plastic, to keep the air. And there's any place that there's a ceiling fixture that's sealed off, so there's no air escaping into the attic space. It's pretty tight. We have to install an air handler in the house to move the air and to bring fresh air in all the time, so that it's not too tight.
So is Chautauqua County businessmen, are they on board and ladies as far as materials, supplies, and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, we actually have great support. We have, we have volunteer electricians, we have volunteer plumbers.
How about materials?
Materials, we get a little bit of a discount at the various lumber suppliers, building supply places
But if you're
around.
building green, probably they don't have a lot of stuff that.
No,
you're
well,
looking
when you talk about renewable materials, we use regular 2x4 wood 2x4s and that type of material. We are using a new type of pressure treated material that doesn't have the toxins in it that the older pressure treated material had in it.
So you're building a 1,000 square foot house with great insulation factor. The heating costs are going to be low. It's clean. It's renewable it's recycled products. We talked about families that are struggling out there, that were living in housing that maybe has lead, that has a leaky roof, mold in the walls perhaps. Okay, we took care of all that. I'm sitting here thinking, people in poverty or that are struggling out there, what does this do for the family's mindset, their ego, their family unit? What are the byproducts of living in one of these homes?
Well, I think it goes back to, again, when you and I bought our first houses. You know, that was a big deal to own your own home and to have an opportunity to raise your family in a place that you owned and basically establish, you take a building, a house, and you turn it into a home. And I think that's probably the greatest benefit for our families is that they have the opportunity to live that American dream of owning their own home. There is when we talked about the people that are living in poverty, I'm not so sure Habitat reaches those folks because our families do have to be able to pay for their house, and under our current tax structure and what it is here in Chautauqua County, almost 50% of their monthly payment goes to pay taxes on these homes. So they do have to have a fairly reasonable income.
They're probably just skimming poverty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say they may still, depending again on the number of children they have, they may be within the poverty guidelines, but they're living in a place where they're paying $600 or $700 a month in rent.
Right.
And now they're going to be paying $600 or $700 to own their own home.
Right.
So
when we were in Ireland a couple years ago, the Irish have an interesting phrase that it kind of goes right along with what you're saying. They say that the goal for every Irish family is to own their own front door. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I thought, oh, I kind of get it. It's like their place, their door that you go through to go into their home. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know how they picked the family. Where do you get the people to do all this work? I mean, I helped build a house, and I had a general contractor do quite a bit of the work. But I mean, we talk about sweat equity. We did the same, but wow, that's a lot of work.
Well, we depend on our volunteers. Habitat is an all-volunteer organization, and we basically depend on people in the community and wherever they want to come from. We welcome all volunteers, and it doesn't matter what skill set you have. You might not know one end of a nail from the other. We will find a job for you. We have one gentleman who comes about once a month, and his objective is to clean the work site.
Oh, wow.
He just comes.
That's huge, though.
Yeah, it's very huge because it eliminates the tripping and everything that goes on.
And it helps you get organized.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we're inside building, he comes and he sweeps the floors and cleans up the sawdust and keeps the place looking nice. If we're outside, he comes and brings his weed whacker with him and cuts the weeds down. And I mean, so you don't have to. I certainly don't have the skills of a carpenter, and I've done a little bit around my own house, but it's different when you're working on your own house, because sometimes the standards are a little less than what they would be on somebody else's. Yeah. But we encourage people to just come for a day. Just come one Saturday morning, spend the day with us, get to know the core of volunteers that are there, and we have a great group of volunteers, and if you like it, come back. We're that sure that you're going to like devoting some time to Habitat for Humanity. We really could use some volunteers now that some more additional volunteers now that we're approaching the interior finishing part of this home. We will soon be putting up drywall, and then we'll be getting to the finishing drywall stage, and that's something we can teach people how to do. You don't have to be a skilled drywall finisher in order to do that. We really could use the help, and if people are interested in getting more information, they can just call the number on the screen,
great.
and
Or the website.
I'd be glad to, or go to the website. And,
Do they have to sign a waiver or anything like that?
Yes, we do ask people to fill out a volunteer application form and volunteer registration form. You don't really apply to be a volunteer, but it's a registration form, and then there is a waiver, and the waiver just says that you understand that if you get hurt, that it's your insurance would cover the expenses, etc. Yeah, and it's we do have some insurance available through Habitat for Humanity International.
Right. An umbrella type thing.
Yes, yes. And one of the other waivers that I always chuckle at is the waiver to let us use your picture. We do a lot of photo taking during the progression of the house, and we end up with probably about 1,500 photos from beginning to end, and
Nice.
we just want to be able to publish those photos, and we put together a little slide presentation, PowerPoint presentation for the family during the dedication. And we're probably going to be continuing to work on this home through this summer. So we would invite people to come on out and find out what it's all about. And the one of the side benefits is that every Saturday about 10:30 we pause to refresh, and we've always got some dandy baked goods that one of the volunteers has made for us.
Food is good. Food is good. Okay, I did get a question about, and this is kind of one of those ones that kind of seem basic, but if someone loses their job or whatever, is there like a safety net?
We try to work with the families. It's, you know, if there's a change in their financial situation, then by all means we do try to work with the families to get them through that period.
All right, again, that's great, and that's what people need sometimes. So, Mike, we got about a minute and a half left of the show. Let's get your phone number and contact information up one more time. And what do you want to tell folks?
I would just, I guess the thing I'd like to leave you with is we have a whole lot of fun volunteering for Habitat. I've been doing it now, I think, for almost 5 years. I think it was 5 years ago this coming January that I first threw my hat in the ring to help out. It's a great thing for couples to do. My wife Kathy and I are both very involved in Habitat, and I would encourage you to come out and give us a look.
Great. I think we brought some Rotarians down one day, and I was doing yard work. We cleaned up the backyard, and it was kind of rough shape at the time, and we were finding pop cans and stuff like that, but when we were done, it looked pretty good.
Yep.
And so it does, you know, I have certain skills, and I have things I don't do very well, but I mean, you know, you could be painting. I'm not allowed to paint in my house, but maybe you guys let me paint your house. But my wife, that's her job. I can't do that. Anyways, but yeah, it's a great program. So Mike, thanks for coming on the show.
Anytime.
And please call in, let us know what's going on, and keep us updated on things. We'll be happy to share your information, and may come back next year and give us an update what's going on in the next house you're building, and bring some pictures next time. Huh?
Okay.
Okay, great.
Will do.
Folks, you've been watching Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels. Our guest has been Mike Ricketts, and we've been talking about Habitat for Humanity. And if you have any questions after the show, contact the station here and we'll hook you up. I want to wish you all a great weekend. Today's 12, 13, 14. Do something interesting, and good luck to you. We'll see you next time. I'm Doc Hamels. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Okay.